And this is the last two of the things that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had asked his students to go out and find or to see what is the best path that someone should take in terms of what's going to make the biggest difference in terms of how they conduct themselves. So far we had a good eye, we had a good friend and good neighbor. And now we have Rabbi Shimon, the fourth of the students. And Rabbi Shimon, hang on one second. Rabbi Shimon says as follows. We've got to let a few people in here. Rabbi Shimon says, hang on one second, just have to let some people in. Okay, we'll have to stop the share to let them in. Can't do two things at once. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. Here we go. So Rabbi Shimon says as follows: Haroa es hanolad. Something we are familiar with this expression. One who sees. Here he says one who considers consequences. Literally, it's one who sees what's going to be born. So in other words, one who's able to see what's going to happen in the future. Doesn't mean a person who's a psychic or a fortune teller, but you're able to think about and figure out what are going to be consequences of actions. Rabbi Lozer Omer, this is the fifth one, Leiv Tov, a good heart. Omar Lohem, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to all of his students, Roe ani es divrei Elazar ben Arach midivrechem. I see that the best one of all of the five that was stated is the last one from Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, who said a good heart, shebichlal devorav divrechem, because included in his words are your words. Basically, a good heart is all encompassing. Okay, so let's go back. Haroa es hanolad, one who sees the future, that sees the consequences. So there are actually a few different angles as to how we can look at this. We can look at it in a more general way or a more spiritual way. So for Rabbi Bartanura, Rabbeinu Yonah, look at it in terms of when you do something. So let's say you want to do something that's a mitzvah. So, but you know what? It costs something. There's a price to pay. The price could be a financial price. The price could be a lot of work and like a lot of effort. So you have to decide. It's really the same idea of that we weigh sechar mitzvah keneged hefseda we had earlier. I think it was an earlier Mishnah that you weigh the reward based on the cost, right? So if you are able to see, oh, what is the outcome of this action going to be, and you really say, oh, I know for now it's going to be difficult, but look at the reward at the end, so then you'd be more likely to do it, and vice versa. This looks good now, but if I do this, then these are going to be the consequences. So in terms of the mitzvah idea would be, if you do a sin now, it doesn't mean there's going to be immediate consequence. Tomorrow I'm going to see all of a sudden I'm going to lose all my money because I did a sin. But in the future, Hashem, he keeps track of everything and there will be a consequence. So if we understand what that consequence will be and what the importance of doing a mitzvah versus doing a sin is, then we will conduct ourselves accordingly. So that's one approach to Haroa as Hanolad. Another thing that Tiferes Yisrael brings down is the idea of, again, if you see what can happen, so then you'll make a fence to protect yourself. We talked about the idea of creating barriers for yourself. So don't do something which is even permissible because you know that it's a slippery slope, or if you end up in this area, nothing wrong with it per se, but what's going to happen, something else will happen as a result, and then you'll get in trouble, right? So his view is, see that if I do this behavior, if I'm in this place, etc., if I'm interacting with these people, then yeah, in and of itself, it may not seem so bad. It may not be wrong, but it's going to ultimately lead to problems, and therefore don't get yourself into that situation. So that's two approaches. On the other hand, just very simply, right, it could be for anything in life. Anything you want to make an investment, you want to open a business, you want to take your family someplace, whatever it might be, you have to look ahead and see, okay, what's going to be? What are the pros and cons, and what could happen if I do certain actions? And Rabbi Lau puts a thing that says, a wise person always looks ahead and weighs the consequences. He says, a clever person knows how to climb out of a pit, but a wise person doesn't fall into the pit in the first place. You have to see what's going to happen. Don't get yourself into trouble. Actually, Rabbeinu Bunim adds, what are different consequences of your actions? So there are many different consequences to things that we do. There could be social repercussions that you end up that other people will think poorly of you, and it could end up being problematic for your social life. It could be, it could affect your relationships. It can affect how you interact with those who are close to you. It could be spiritual, where there's going to be a decline in your spirituality and your connection to Hashem. It could be a health thing, right? It could be more than health. It could be life and death. There are certain actions you go, if you drive at 150 kilometers an hour on a road, your chances of getting killed are getting a lot higher, or somebody else getting killed. So he says, if you would able to be able to pay attention to what the results are, you wouldn't do the action. There's another interesting approach I saw, which is more also a visualizing thing. To literally, when it says see what's going to happen, is use your imagination and picture yourself and put yourself into the scene. As let's say the possibility is going to be that something negative will happen. I don't know, the teacher is gonna give you an assignment. Figure out, picture yourself writing that assignment, and all the effort you're gonna have to put into it. Actually, this is something which, on the positive side, works as well. Picture yourself in that good spot. Picture yourself in the result. If you imagine what the result will look like, it's easier to get there. They believe in sports. This was an example of, you're the pitcher. In your mind, have that pitch crossing the plate exactly where you want it to go, or the basketball shot going right into swish through the net. I guess we should be talking about hockey, right? But picture exactly where it's going into 5-hole, right? So if you picture it, then somehow or other it makes it easier to make it happen. And in sports, that's one of the things that great players do, and the same thing in every other aspect of life as well. If we are able to picture ourselves in whatever the situation is, that will have a greater effect on whether or not we're going to do that action. Because if it's a consequence, picture that consequence, you're going to feel it. You can say, oh, I better not do this action. On the other hand, if it's a good outcome, you'll make a greater effort to make it happen. And one more thing about this idea, the Maharal says, if you are able to see the outcome, then you're going to do things for other people, because it's going to come back to you, right? One of the things about doing things for others is that you do for others and others will do for you. So if you are able to think about that, then you say, look, I'll put myself out for other people because I know it's going to come back to me. It's not necessarily the totally altruistic approach, but it works. And also it could have we talked about doing things for neighbors. Well, this could have a greater approach than that, greater results, positive results. We've got a short amount of time. We'll just maybe start it. We'll save some for the next time, about the good heart. So the good heart, Rabbeinu Yonah, interestingly, he quotes Rambam to say that the good heart is the pinnacle of refining your characteristics, your midos, because, and all the commentators talk about this, the thoughts come from the heart. We talk about the brain, but in Jewish concept, it's the heart. The heart is really what is sort of like the brain connected, but everything comes from your heart. And if a person has a good heart, then your midos will be good. Your behavior will be good. Everything you do is going to be positive. And therefore, and then a person will be happy with what he has. They'll be able to get along with other people. They'll befriend people, and then they're only going to do things and want things that have a purpose. They're not going to do things that have a downside. Rabbeinu Yonah for himself, though, explains that even that was the Rambam, and he has a different approach to the words. It may be true what the Rambam says, but he doesn't see that in the wording here. And he says the wording is that a leiv tov is someone who is tolerant, someone who's able to, doesn't get upset, person doesn't get angry, a good-hearted person. Everything is okay in terms of their relationships. That person responds softly to other people, even when something went a little wrong and someone hurt them. They'll respond in a gentle manner, and that's what a good heart is. And therefore, it's a concept of humility. but it's also the idea of a good-hearted person is someone who is able to deal with other people in a way that is always going to be on an even keel and in a gentle and nice manner, and that will always come back to the person. We're going to hold it there for today. Next time we'll do the conclusion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Have a great day, everyone.